Looking for some warmth around your finger, hope you find it. Slasher player, some dancer, then singer, don't rewind it. Company's important, I'm a narcissist if I like mine. Go through a coping. Good morning gamers, welcome back to another Pokemon Go tutorial video. I just released my first piece of music, Calcium Carbonate by Tangible Isaac, out on every streaming service. And I'm going to take you through the exact steps and expenses of how I was able to produce, write, mix, and master an entire full-length concept album by myself with no music experience and less than $100. No, I don't care what he inquires, I gotta be on track, on route to drive targets. So whether you are interested in doing this or you're just interested in how it is done, the biggest thing that people are worried about is like expenses and equipment. Like I said earlier, I was able to make this entire album with less than $100, and I spent $0 on actually recording the album. I live really close to a college campus and they have like a podcast studio there. I don't attend that college, but I know some people who do, so I was able to have them rent out the podcast studio and then record some vocals there. So, but that isn't a super accessible method to everybody, and also I didn't have enough time to use that for the entire album. So the other method that I used that really anybody could do was, if you just take genuinely any phone, I have a like iPhone 10 or something, and you just put it in like a sock or something, the audio will come out a lot better than you expected if you keep it about this far from you. What the sock does is it holds it still so you don't have to worry about sound from moving it. And also every time you make like a p sound, like for example with this mic here, if I go procrastinate, if I take the pop filter off, procrastinate, you see what I'm saying? It just kind of makes any sound that has kind of a wind from it sound a lot better. And your sock will do pretty much exactly what this like $5 pop filter does. And I was able to record the vocals for a couple tracks just like that. If you have a phone, a sock, and a car, or even like a closet, or maybe if you can get like under your desk and put some pillows up or something like that, you can get not professional but decent sounding vocals that definitely will make anybody who isn't like a mixing and mastering engineer think, oh, these sound good. You know what I mean? So that's all I did for recording equipment. And then obviously for writing, you don't really need equipment for that. I just used my notes app. And for where I actually made all the music, I used FL Studio. I think FL Studio is like $300 or something, and like I said, I only spent less than $100 on this whole thing. For the first half of producing the album, because I did produce the whole thing myself, I was just using the free trial. The free trial of FL Studio is actually really, there's actually a lot you can do with it, so you don't really need to buy the full version. The only reason I did was because I wanted to save multiple songs at once, but I made a bunch of tracks just with the free trial. You don't really need the full version, but I did personally for my project. So it was like Black Friday or something, so I think I got it for like $80-$90 or something, and it was totally worth it because I could save my projects and then come back to them later and stuff. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I use for equipment. Again, under $100, very simple stuff. If you're resourceful, you can get anything done. The phone and sock method, tried and true. I promise it sounds pretty good. And yeah, let's move on to
I keep waiting for exposure so I can say I told you, cause I gotta smell this.
So I wanted to produce every track on my album. I'm a very like production focused person, so it was really important to me that I could learn all of the techniques I needed in order to produce that, because the fun part of making music to me is the production. So I did learn a bunch of music theory, and you can hear again with this example. If I just right click this, these synths I made, so that's an example of something that I made personally within FL Studio. Again, you can do that with the free trial. But for almost the rest of the album, like 80% of the album, I sampled most of my songs, or I sampled most of my sounds, which just means I took them from other artists. Like, I don't know how to sugarcoat it. Like, if you listen to these drums here, I did not make those. I can actually show you where those came from. If you listen in this song from Steven Universe about here, those drums going on with that guitar are actually the same drums at the beginning. I just slowed them down, rearranged them a little bit, and pitched it, but you can probably hear the similarities. I'll play it again. And then I'll play my version of them. It might be hard to tell, but basically that's how I got like 90% of the sounds in my album. Was I just would take songs that I liked and just take instruments from that or anything like that. Or even I sampled a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily music, like maybe YouTube videos or something. Like for example, in this track called P2, the singing at the beginning of it before the actual beat itself comes in. It's from a YouTube video of just some guys camping.
And it's gonna be a good time. The sun is...
But yeah, I know I said I don't have like any music experience, but I have been practicing sampling for like almost a year now, so it is something that I have learned to do prior to making this album. But it's pretty simple, surprisingly. Like, I'll show you again, this is the full track from Steven Universe with those drums from the other example I showed you. And if I just click here and then extract stems, I can just choose to extract the drums. This is something that I don't know if other DAWs do this, but FL Studio does this really well. And then it'll load for a bit, and then it will just have only the drums playing and everything else will be cut out. I have no idea how that works. It seems like magic to me. I have no idea how they do this, but it's pretty awesome. So I'll play the original again one more time, and then I'll do just the drums that it just extracted. I don't know how it does that. And then let me just play the beginning again just so you can hear. But yeah, so that's one of the probably hundreds of examples of sampling that I used in my album. It's free. You don't have to live record anything. Did I get permission from Cartoon Network to sample their drums? I will not confirm or deny it. But if it's something like this, I'm changing it so much and I'm taking such a little part of their catalog. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. But there were some samples where I did get permission from the artist. If I just wanted to like literally use their entire thing without changing it, without only taking a piece from it or something like that, I would just reach out and say, hey, is it okay if I use this, whatever. And I haven't had anybody say no to me yet, so whatever. The next technique that I used a lot was panning, which means having different sounds in your left and right ears. If you're watching this on YouTube, which you are, don't lie. It's going to be hard to tell, but maybe if you're wearing headphones or something, it'll be a little bit easier, but I'll do it quick then. But you can see this sound right here when this comes in. It's just kind of a weird, it's like a guitar riff, but it's kind of weird sounding. I'll play just that sound for a sec. And then I'll play that within the context of this beat here. It's just kind of only in your right ear, and it kind of adds something to it because it feels kind of off, or maybe it feels less present in the mix, which is really nice. You know what I'm saying? It just adds a lot of texture to it, and it's interesting. Even in P2, if you listen to the drums and the vocal chop, again, if you can't hear this in headphones, it might be hard, but you can see it visually here. The top means left, and then the bottom means right. So I have one of them. I have the drums kind of going like this, while the vocal chop is doing the exact opposite. So if you can hear it. Like, they both just kind of cross from left to right, which gives it kind of this magical feel, which is something that the synths really communicate. So I also like to add a ton of different effects. So if you listen here, you can hear kind of the record scratching effect. No, I don't care what. This just kind of makes it sound cool to me. I'll play that without it too. No, I don't care what. Just kind of intros into new segments. The way I did this was I would use this plugin called Gross Beat. I won't get into the dynamics of how exactly I did that, but if you are a producer and you're wondering, Gross Beat is how I do that. I just pick one with like this little curve at the end, and then just get rid of everything else, just so it's that little. And yeah, that's basically what I did for the production. Like for that last example I just showed you, pretty much everything in that track produced was sampled by this song by Back Cover. Don't know how to pronounce that, and I'm not going to try. Shout out Back Cover. But yeah, I just took like a drum fill from the middle of the song and kind of looped that to make it for the drums for the whole song. Used my extracting stems technique that I showed you earlier to get like just the electric guitar out or just the vocals out or something, and just rearranged it in a way that was really unique to me, and pitched stuff up and moved it around so that it was kind of my sound, but still giving credit to the main artist, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's producing. That's my favorite part, and let's move on to mixing.
The foraminiferans used the calcium carbonate dissolved.
My least favorite part, I never want to mix or master a song again. Mixing and mastering is so for mixing and mastering, the best technique that I could find was you have this whole project here with the whole beat and all your vocals and stuff at the bottom as well, and then everything at the end. You render that out yourself, and then you bring it into a completely different project. So now you can see all of the different sounds individually are gone, and it's all just one track. and then you just put different effects on it that kind of gets it ready for like Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. Like for example, you can't have really anything in these ranges on the hertz scale. Sometimes you gotta bump your vocals up a little, around 500 to 600 hertz. You gotta cut out some of the mid end and high end and whatever. And I also like to have this patcher effect, which just kind of gets rid of some of the muddiness on the side and mid as well. I don't know, it's super complicated. I low-key don't understand half of it, but it's also like thousands of dollars to have someone else professionally mix and master your track. And there are a couple options on the internet that are just like, oh, give us $20 and AI will do it. And that sounds fine. Like for stuff like getting rid of these frequencies, you pretty much have to do that on every single song. Like that's not really going to change depending on what song you're producing, because it's just kind of something that you have to do no matter what. So for stuff like that, yeah, the AI will do good, but everything else you have to really do so much drastically different stuff when you're mixing and mastering that I just don't believe that the AI would be able to do that as well as you could if you just sat down for 30 minutes and learned how to do it. So I would not recommend doing that. If you have $1 grillion, then I would recommend sending it to a professional, because it's also really stupid and hard to do and time consuming. But like I said, budget was under 100, so I did it all myself. And I guess I didn't really explain what mixing is. Mastering, like I said earlier, is just kind of getting it ready for streaming services and stuff by cutting out frequencies, making sure everything is loud enough or quiet enough, and making sure it's not peaking or anything like that. Like you could see if I play this song here, it's just kind of getting at that 0 or -1 decibel range. But if I were to do a horrible job mixing, then it would get up into those reds, and that would sound horrible on Spotify because they would like compress that. But mixing is different from mastering, where it's just trying to get all of the sounds together. So you're not going to want to do that in one project like this, where you have the entire track just one track, instead of having all the individual sounds like I showed you earlier. So before you do any mastering or anything, you have to mix all of your sounds together. Like for example, in this track I have a vocal chop up here, drums, synths, bass, more bass, probably shouldn't have put that much bass in, and vocals, and you just have to get them all to fit together. So for example, I put a EQ on the bass, which just cuts out every single frequency that isn't super low, because it's bass, bass is supposed to be super low, so it just makes more room for those higher frequencies like the drums or something. Or if you go to the vocal chop, I made room for the bass on the vocal chop by cutting out those frequencies, and then the vocals I added a little bit of high frequencies and again got rid of the low end. Or I even would add this monster. I don't know what this does. I followed a tutorial on how to make this, but it just kind of makes the vocals stand out a little bit more. If you listen to the vocals compared to the synth here, but then if I turn this all the way down, it just kind of makes it fit together more. I don't know, it might be hard to hear on YouTube, but it just makes room for the vocals in a way. And that's basically what mixing is. And then again, after you do this, you master, which I already kind of explained a little bit. But all of that is free. I use completely stock plugins. There are people who would tell you that you need to buy all these plugins. You don't need to do all that. Maybe if you're a professional audio engineer you do, but you can get the job done with all of the free plugins that come in the free trials of pretty much every software. Now let's move on to for releasing an album. If you want to do it on just SoundCloud or YouTube or something, you can literally just upload it and whatever. But if you want to get it onto actual streaming services like Apple Music and Spotify and stuff, you have to have a label. And this is my first project, so I do not have a label. So instead of having a label that's paying me to make music, there's third-party services that will act as your label, where you pay them like $30 a year or something, and they will be able to distribute your music onto streaming services. So I personally use DistroKid. This is a super popular one. 80% of independent artists use this one. I just completely made that statistic up. That might just be not true at all. And that will be able to get all your stuff on Spotify, Apple Music, and like I said, it's like $30 a year. So you don't have to do that. You can upload it onto SoundCloud and YouTube, and people will listen to it there. But it's just, I kind of wanted it to be on Spotify and Apple Music as well. So, but then it has to pass all of these like copyright checks, and just it has to pass all this stuff. So you can't just put anything on there. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit more complicated, but it's not that bad. And then I just posted on like my personal Instagram. I made a YouTube video about it for this channel, just telling friends and family, word of mouth. I was able to get a bunch of people to listen to my album and stuff too. So I'm not good at like advertising or promoting anything, but since I had a little bit of a following already on the internet, I was able to get a couple people to listen to it. So I'm grateful for for you if you did, and no pressure. If I don't want to pressure you into listening to it. If you're watching this right now, only do it if you're interested in it. But anyways, just my advice. I'm not a professional. I don't know what I'm doing, and that's kind of the whole point of this video, is like, you're not gonna know like what to do, how to do everything. I probably am not exaggerating when I say I probably watched like 200, 300 tutorials during this whole process of just like, what does this button do in FL Studio? What decibel should I be mastering at? Just stuff like that. The first step, just start writing a song, just start producing it, and just keep taking those little steps until you can get it to a point where it's ready for Spotify and you can produce it. I know it's scary and it's not going to be good. I promise you, your first project is not going to be good. Mine isn't necessarily good. It does not have that professional sound or feel to it, but I didn't really want it to. You know what I'm saying? I wanted it to sound like something that I poured my heart and soul into for like a year. Try really hard, try my best, learn so much, and it sounds even better than I thought it would. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had no experience with any of this, especially mixing and mastering. And after just trying really hard, I was able to get it to sound genuinely way better than I would have expected at all. So just try to make something and then just care about the quality later. Just make something, bro. You need to take that first step. I know it's hard, but I know you can do it if you want to. And obviously still try your best with the quality, but just understand it's not going to be good. That stuff only comes with time. I did everything weird and wrong, but that's okay. Thanks for sitting there and listening to me yap about this. This is a very different video for me. I don't think I've ever done like a almost educational video like this. I'm always so focused on like making it funny. It probably wasn't very funny, so I'm sorry. But I just wanted this to be out there because I'm literally just some dude who knew nothing about music and just spent the time researching and trying and, you know, trial and error. And I was able to make a full 30-minute album that sounds good enough and get it on the streaming services myself. So I just want everybody to know it's super accessible. Maybe not super accessible, but if you have the time, you don't need a lot of money or resources. Yeah, you do need a computer though. If I didn't have like a computer, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this, to be honest with you. So I guess I maybe should have said that earlier, but whatever. I'm going to end this video out with my favorite 5 seconds from each track. I hope you could tell through this I'm super passionate about this stuff, and so I genuinely would appreciate it if you did listen to the album or just these 5-second snippets. But if you're not interested in it, don't. Like, I don't want to press you into whatever. So thank you. I'm really grateful for you, and enjoy these little snippets. Thank you and goodbye. And then I'll turn the camera off.
Delivering these tangible goods, I guess it ain't half bad. I prefer the intangible ones made with a trackpad.
Got resources in the backpack, no, it's playing like a math pass. It's all just grown. I'm trying to keep putting on black and
take a series that's like a take the floor from the chicken from the Swissers that we licking.
let me just. You left your flat with no substance.
And then the story.
I kept on, like I could have just been. The sun is.
Rocks that were composed mainly of calcium carbonate or chalk.
I just haven't known that I just had to.
Listen.